So I'll call this meeting at
6:04.
6:04. Board members attending is Ken, BJ, Diane, Steve on Zoom as well. I apologize, I'm gonna be a little slower tonight.
It's okay.
Take your time.
Is there any additions to the agenda that anybody wants to add?
I have
Yes.
one more excess water for 1159 Footbrook Road, LLC.
And we can just add that to the water sewer part.
Yes.
119 Footbrook Road.
Yeah, it's over on, that's the owners. It's over at Parker and Stern's old property.
Okay, I'd like to also add to the bottom, add meeting next week to discuss village foreman position and VAPSA rep. So we'll add that to the bottom.
And I'd like to add something to
Yeah,
it.
go ahead.
To talk about where to post meetings and to get permission from the trustees to invite Lamoille Solid Waste to come and speak at the informational meeting. And Dan is going to look into doing a little talk on on this wastewater.
Let's see a little what to flush, what not to flush.
Yeah.
So we'll add that to the very bottom.
I'd like to add a discussion about the minutes.
With that being said, has everybody looked at the old minutes?
I was not supplied the minutes in a timely enough manner to read them. Received them 2 hours and 19 minutes before the meeting, so.
Okay, if you want to do a motion to add it to next week, our next meeting.
So motion.
Second.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Okay, unanimous. So we'll put that on next week or our next meeting.
You want the agenda for next week,
Yes, please.
so they don't go on for another whole month.
Yeah, we'll put it right on next week's.
We don't actually have a date yet, correct?
No, we don't. That'll be
That's part
at
of
the
our-
very end.
Yeah.
Treasurer's report. Is there anything that we need to know dealing with this, Rosemary?
I've got two that we'd like to place on mobile homes. One is on Gerald Jarvis at 29 Center Street, Lot 19, in the amount of $379.27. And the other one is on Sherry Sauls at 75 Park Street, Lot 12, in the amount of $839.13.
And this is taxes.
Water and sewer,
Have they been informed about the programs to?
yes.
So motion to apply liens to is it Sherry?
Mhm.
Sherry Sauls, 75 Park Street, lot 12. The amount of $839.13. And lien on Gerald Jarvis, 29 Center Street, lot 19. The amount of $379.27.
Yeah,
Second.
Right. BJ to sign.
And authorize Vice Chair BJ to sign.
I'll
Second.
second that motion.
Okay, all approved?
Aye.
Aye. Do we need discussion in there?
What?
Do you need discussion in between?
Do we need a discussion? Well,
Ask if there's any discussion.
is there any discussion?
I don't know if anybody had questions.
Nope, nope. Chair is aye, unanimous, so we can go ahead with that and we'll sign that. Is that right to sign in red? It doesn't have to be black.
No, I would sign in black. That one.
I might have to use yours 'cause I don't know. Okay, now we are on water sewer liens, right?
That's what we just did.
Yes, we
Oh,
did.
that's, was that all?
Yep, just those two.
Okay,
I haven't had a chance to do the budget status reports. I'm waiting to close out the year, so we'll have a fresh one for the first 3 months.
okay. Lisa, you have the floor?
I am Lisa Cruz from Johnson Rec, and we are seeking permission to file an Act 250 amendment on an existing Act 250 on the, it's called the Hatfield property, jointly owned by the village and the town. So the select board has given us permission to file this, what you guys asking for. And the purpose of getting this amendment is simply to find out from the state if we can even use that land for anything. So there are no plans in place for any work or anything like that. Just wanting to find out, we just want to find out if in the future we can make it work in that area. You know, and if we were to do that, we'll come back to you and also just like with our plans, we can't have those assistants prior to doing any work. This is simply a mission of just finding out if we're allowed to access the land because of this. Before. Act 250, that one that allows for certain stuff and not other.
Anybody in motion?
Or do we need a motion?
Discussion. Discussion, we need, right?
Lisa, roughly where is this? Is this up behind where the town and village garages are, that
Yes.
property?
Yeah,
Like,
and it sort of parallels along Highway Lane, not all the way down, but just a swath of land along the edge there. And years ago, there was an Act 250 already applied for, so going forward, you just put amendments in, and then that's won't suffice, the state will let us know that, we can come back to you guys, give you more information.
And is that because it's a brownfield? Is that,
I think it's because it was an existing telephone site. Okay. I believe that.
Well, the main reason it's under an Act 250 permit.
Excuse me?
The main reason would be it's under an Act
Yeah, it's
250
currently,
permit.
it's currently under an act, and the initial permit process was because it's a whole cell site.
So we need a motion on that. So I'd motion to allow the Johnson Recreational Coordinator. Is that right? The coordinator is going to do it. The coordinator to file an amendment for an Act 250 to the Act 250 permit to see about future use. That cover it? Trail use.
I'll
Future
second that.
Trail use.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Board is an aye, unanimous.
Discussion.
Discussion. I thought discussion was already, okay, discussion?
I'd say you're good.
So BJ, can we, so someone speaking from the crowd, is that microphone able to be moved closer to them? It was really hard to hear Lisa.
Yeah.
Okay,
We can just come up to it. I
Let's
was.
see, there is.
They'll go up to it.
all right.
Oh, yeah, because Will can't hear you probably.
Was that motion okay, Donna?
we have-
That worked for you?
Okay. Next.
So no discussion, BJ, so now you want to call the question.
Okay, so basically it's trustees public, and then motion.
Yes.
Oh, then you call the question, yeah.
Okay. You already did the motion, right?
Steve seconded it.
Seconded it. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Aye. So it's unanimous. So
Motion
that
passed.
passes.
Good luck.
Next.
Good luck with it.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And thanks for your work with the Recreation Committee too.
Okay,
Fun.
RJ, you got the
Our day's
floor?
not here yet.
Oh.
He's
Oh,
not
he's
here,
down
so
there.
bump him down.
He's
Okay, so
not
we'll move
until
him.
6:30.
Oh,
Oh, we're moving.
We're ahead schedule
Damn.
right now.
So
Okay, so,
Is Bonte's here, I believe.
Bonte,
Bronte.
Bronte, sorry.
I put a copy of her email in the packet.
Here,
Oh,
go ahead.
okay.
If you want to step up, that way they can hear you, please. Thank you.
Can y'all hear me?
Can you hear her well?
Yep.
Yep, perfect.
So I didn't realize that Johnson had a winter parking ban in specific places. I know when I moved into my apartment, the lease was that I wasn't allowed to park on the premise of the apartment because there's only 2 cars per apartment, and I had moved in as the 3rd person to live in my apartment. I was not in a good place at that point, so I agreed to not have it. I also had it was their friend, and I only had a year to park there with them, and then it had come to 2021. And then I didn't realize that there was a parking ban. Anyways, Nate Brigham approached me on Thursday, telling me that I'm not allowed to park there anymore, there is a parking ban. And then no parking from 2 a.m. to 6 a.m. And then he said I could come and talk to you guys about it, so I'm here. If there's anywhere else that I can park my car, because I'm still not allowed, I have made that agreement with the lease to not park at my apartment. And I'm not there for almost 11 hours a day. I'm in the town, I work in the library, so I'm not here for almost 11 hours a day.
And where's the building located?
Yeah.
Where I'm parking or where I
Where the
live?
building is that you live?
146 Railroad Street. The green and yellow building
Okay,
right next to Consolidated Internet or.
yeah,
that one?
Oh,
on the right hand side, right?
On the right-hand
So,
side.
yeah, if you're looking at it, consolidated is on the right.
So you're parking on Railroad Street at this point in time?
No, where I was parking was, I think that what they said is it's the Village Greens, it's the art store, and it's that U-turn
Mhm.
or the horseshoe.
that's a long ways to walk to your car, but
Hey, at least I get exercise.
yeah.
Trustees discussion?
So there's 2 parking places where your apartment is for
Yeah.
your particular apartment?
No, the agreement for all of the apartments is that only 2 cars can park for each apartment. And because my roommates are already there currently, at that point when I moved in, they already had a year's worth of time before I did, but it still stood that even the landlord said to me, and I had agreed when I signed that I wasn't gonna park on the premise of the apartments. And it was fine at that point because they had a friend that we had made a contract with, like me and the person, their friend, to park at their house. And then the contract finished, and that's from 20 to 21, and then I didn't really have anywhere else to park, and I wasn't allowed to park at the apartment either. So I'm just trying to accommodate everybody.
So, and your landlord isn't open to, there's no way they can fit another car in the parking lot, I take it.
It's a tight squeeze, that's for sure. Nate brought it up to me, and I just was trying to accommodate everybody.
So my only 2 thoughts is during the winter, the reason we have that parking ban, I believe, is for snow removal and plowing. And then, and this ain't a negative thing, if we make exceptions for one person, then that leads later on down the road for other people to do the same. But is there a parking spot that is open to the public close by? Do we,
That won't get towed.
that
too.
won't get towed?
Well, they should be able to park over by the ice rink parking, right?
By where?
There's a municipal lot where the old fire station used to be. But
Oh, there
does that have a parking ban too in winter?
That I could
I
not tell you.
don't know, I
We'd have
think
to
Nate did mention that, but there probably is a parking ban over there, but he did say bring it to you guys and then that specific parking spot. for the parking lot.
And where is that one?
Over by the old fire. Department. Will, do you know if the old fire department is also in the parking ban?
I don't know, I haven't walked over.
If
it.
it's winter time, yes, if there's a snowstorm, they're gonna require all the cars to move. Making an exception for one resident, I'm not for, because like BJ said, it's gonna be setting a precedent, and it's there for a reason. It's there so they can clean the sidewalks and the streets and the parking areas. As far as your landlord not supplying you with a parking spot, I would go back to them and tell them that you need to have a parking spot. If they can't provide one, my suggestion would be to find someone in the area, a residence that'd be willing to either allow you or lease you a parking spot, so that you can accommodate your car.
Okay.
Bronte, this is only until what date? What's the
It's till the end of April. isn't it?
end of
The
April?
Parking ban? I mean, I don't know where, I don't know where the greens, that lands to, but it's here either April 1st or April 15th.
I live pretty close to there. I just need to speak to my wife and we would probably allow you to park on our property.
Okay.
So if I'll give you my number and you can get in touch with me
Okay,
after the meeting, okay?
okay.
Yeah,
awesome.
it's Lamoille View Drive, if you know where that is, by the cemetery. We live across from there.
Oh,
And
okay.
it wouldn't be a very long walk for you.
Be
It's
closer.
a
than
temporary
that.
situation.
Yeah, green. Good job, Steve. That was nice of you.
Mhm.
BJ Kyle has her hand up.
Does that help
What'd
you
you
out?
say?
That BJ Kyle has her hand up.
Who had their hand?
Kyle has her hand up.
Oh, go ahead, Kyle.
Thanks. Hi, Kyle Noose. I'm just curious what renters' rights are on parking. It seems like if you're renting apartments, you have to be able to provide parking for them. This just seems bizarre.
Yeah, that's up to the renter. That's not up to us.
But aren't there? No, I know, but there must be some renters' rights around this from either coming down from the state or.
I think they do have it. I think she said that they have 2 parking spots for their unit. She's just the third.
Mhm, that's
Right,
what
but you shouldn't be able to rent to a third person if you don't have a parking spot for them. That's what I'm saying.
Well, maybe you could take it up with her afterwards, Kyle, because it's not germane to this.
Yeah, Bronte, I'm pretty sure that we can accommodate you on this. Just text me later on or first thing in the morning. Okay? My name is Steve. by the way.
Good luck.
Anyone else? Any questions? Okay. That's the bill financing program. The rep from VIPSA oh yeah, it is VIPSA. VIPSA BHFA to discuss bill financing program.
We're on time.
We're way ahead.
Ken Polito on?
Yes, Ken Polito's here with VHFA. I don't know.
I'm just gonna tee this up, and Ken is the expert on this, so VHFA, they're actually running the program.
Can we ask you to go over to the mic so that Will can hear you more easily?
Bye, Lisa.
Thanks.
Thanks, Lisa.
Thank you.
Ken Nolan, General Manager at VEPSA. Ken Polito with VHFA is on the video with me. I believe Meredith Burkett kind of teed this conversation up with you at a previous meeting. But what's going on is VHFA was given funding last year through a pilot program to allow customers to borrow money for efficiency projects. That's defined pretty broadly. The catch from Village of Johnson's standpoint is part of the program which requires on-bill financing. So the customer would essentially work with Efficiency Vermont to identify a project that would qualify for funding. You would qualify for funding primarily by having a project whose savings are projected to be more than the monthly cost if you were to borrow funds. Borrow the money through BHFA, and you've got a whole, essentially a loan agreement like you would sign with any other loan. But on the back end, the customer would pay the bill through their electric bill. So it would be the monthly fee for the loan would be added on to the electric bill, collected by the Village of Johnson, and then there would be an agreement between you and VHFA to pass the funding back. Ken can get into the details here, but essentially this was created by the state as a way to allow people who would normally qualify for a loan to be able to borrow money for efficiency projects. They don't have to go through a traditional credit review. It's all really based on their payment history with the utility. So it does result in a little bit of extra administrative work for the village, and you end up in the middle of that relationship between the customer and VHFA as far as collecting funds and passing them through. There is a provision for you to collect some money for the administrative burden, $2 a month for every loan you get. Not projecting a huge number of people to take this, honestly. Spread across the state, it's going to be a few customers in each utility. We'll let Ken go into more detail, and we're happy to answer any questions you've got.
Thanks, Ken. Again, quick recap, as Ken mentioned, VHFA was appropriated some money from the state to develop this statewide on-bill financing program to allow folks to do weatherization work primarily with efficiency work combined with weatherization. And what's different about on-bill versus a traditional loan, as Ken mentioned, is one, folks don't go through a traditional credit underwriting. The only real requirement is that they have a clean 12-month bill payment history. One. Two, this program is just piggybacking on existing Efficiency Vermont weatherization efforts. So Efficiency Vermont is the program administrator. They will be working with the customer from initial contact all the way through the project being completed. One of the key steps in there is Efficiency Vermont will do some energy modeling to estimate the savings. And as Ken said, the program requires that the estimated savings exceed the cost of the monthly loan repayment by at least 10%. And I would say the last big difference between this program and a loan is it's really an investment to the meter, not to an individual. So if I'm a homeowner and I get some weatherization work funded with this program, and let's say it's 10 years to pay that loan back, and I decide to move after 2 years, I'm no longer obligated to pay any of that loan off. The next occupant of that building would pick up the monthly payments for the term of their occupancy. And so this is one way to help renters. So landlords could invest in these weatherization upgrades. The tenant could be paying the utility bill and this extra charge for their tenancy. And the moment they leave, they're no longer obligated to pay. So really, they're only paying for the time that they're getting the value of the weatherization measures, which is lower energy costs. There are really three parties to this effort. I said VHFA is in the background providing the funding. Efficiency Vermont is the day-to-day interface with the customer all the way through the project being complete. And then the last component is the distribution utility. And they really have three tasks in this program. One, when a customer expresses interest and they apply with EVT, EVT will reach out to that customer's utility to pull their bill payment history to make sure they qualify. So that's one task the utility has to do. Let's say their customer passes screening, they do the measures. The next task is for the distribution utility to put that charge on the customer's bill. So VHFA will basically say, this customer has an obligation of $5,000. It's $20 a month for I don't know, 20 months or 100 months, whatever the term is. And then the utility will bill the customer, collect the fee, remit to VHFA. One thing I want to stress is really clear is the distribution utility should never be out of cash in this whole process. So EBT or VHFA would expect the utility to start billing, some months after the program is up or the project is complete, to make sure there's time for the customer to pay the distribution utility before they remit money to VHFA. In cases where a customer is not paying, the utility does not have to forward any of those proceeds to VHFA. VHFA is wearing all that risk. So really, there should be no financial risk to the utility from cash going out the door before you've collected it. We are asking you, though, to provide this billing service. And then the last task is to provide customer service related to billing questions only. So if a customer has a question about the measures done or program related, they should be directed to EBT to address those. If a customer has a question regarding how many more payments do I have, or how many payments have I made, things of that sort, we would ask the distribution utility to provide that information. And every month, VHFA will provide the utility with a report for every account, providing all that information. So there shouldn't be a lot of administrative work for the utility to provide those answers. And again, as Ken mentioned, we understand this is more work for utilities. So, we're expecting utilities to charge some sort of monthly billing fee. Actually, the way it's set up right now is we expect the utility to charge a one-time setup fee for every account, and then a monthly billing fee for each account going forward. And I will say, because this is new for a lot of utilities, VHFA does have some money if there's some startup costs the utility has to set up their billing systems to accommodate this. We may be able to help out on some of those costs going forward. But again, the state has decided this would be a innovative way to allow more folks to get the benefits of weatherization, no money down, no money out the door, and not have that obligation hang over them as they move from place to place over time.
So what are they gonna allow the utilities to charge? Obviously, they're obviously not just gonna let us to set a rate and say we're gonna charge $1,000.
No, so in our discussions with other utilities, we've had more than further down the road, some other issues than you folks. We've been told that they would have to justify whatever rate they charge because it's it would be under a tariff. So it's a tariff rate. So however you set fees under your tariff and establishing a cost of service, some sort of approach would be needed to justify that. Maybe Ken can address that a little more.
Yeah, hitting a key point here. So the way this would be implemented from a utility standpoint is we have to develop a tariff, which BHFA is working with all the utilities of the group to get one tariff in place. So the terms and conditions would essentially be the same, and then we plug in the cost numbers for each utility separately. And so we're working on that tariff right now and getting to language everybody can agree with. Then for those utilities that choose to participate, this is opt-in, it's not mandatory. You have to agree that you want to do it. We work with you, Steve Farman from our shop, we work with you to figure out generally how much time per month, what's your labor rates to back into what we can justify for charge. Okay, so I threw out $5 a month. I mean, that number is going to be calculated, but I think that's what all the utilities are anticipating is that once you get a customer account set up, it'd be basically a $5 charge per month for processing whatever goes on.
I mean, that don't even sound feasible.
So-
I mean, I'm just saying that, you know what I mean? The way rates are going up, Rosemary's got to send out 3 mails. There's half that $5 for that month.
$5 per customer.
Per customer, right?
Right, per account, but and it should be ideally, you have to look at what your billing system can do. But the whole concept here is it's not a separate billing. this goes on your normal electric bill as a separate surcharge or line item. It would be part of what you're already saying.
So let me ask you, if they're delinquent, is it up to our people to call them and try to get the money? Or is that on another part of this?
It would be another part. It would not be, the DUs are not responsible for any collection efforts. We would just
Okay.
ask that if someone is in arrears, you continue to put the charge on the bill until we say, stop. But we're not asking you to reach out to folks or anything of that sort.
BJ, the first question I have is, Rosemary, how difficult or if it's even possible to add something like this to our current billing program?
We'd have to get a quote from our software company to make the changes.
Okay, so you think it can be done, it's just, there's gonna be a fee involved.
Yes.
Ken, so if we get a quote, if we move forward with this project, we get a quote from our software company, what it's going to be to add it, you said, a portion or something of the cost of setting this up. If it exceeds, is it a possibility that the cost would exceed what you guys are willing to spend to implement this into our billing?
Potentially, yes. We're struggling with, because we're reaching out to all the DUs in the state. And so we don't know what that number, some have no cost, they're ready to do it.
Yeah.
Others will have costs. So it's hard for me to answer that without having all the data collected.
And when do you have to know a yay or nay for this program?
So right now, the initial group of utilities, so far, folks who have said they'd be interested and have had lots of discussions with us are GMP, VEC, VGS, and BED, and hopefully, some folks of VIPSA members. That initial group, we were planning to submit the tariff to the department for approval mid-April. And then the concept would be to actually roll the program out to customers in July. So it'd be great, if we can have that first group done in, mid-April. I understand that may be tight if you have to reach out to your software vendor, but again, this would be an ongoing process. So if you wanted to come in later, we could definitely make that happen.
Okay. So if we were to have a quote from our software company and give that to you, you could tell us if it's going to fall under parameters, what you can cover for it.
Yeah, yes.
Okay. Personally, I'd be in favor of, anything that can help our ratepayers and stuff like that. Anything we can do for that, that's not going to cost more than what it's going to benefit them. I'd be in favor of. I'd be willing to let Rosemary reach out to the software company and find out what it would cost to do that, and then have her get that quote to Ken and see if they will cover that cost, and then we can discuss it on our regular meeting in April.
Sounds good.
I would just ask, maybe I could speak with Rosemary offline, because we're really trying to simplify. So maybe I could define what the parameters the system needs to do or track. Because we're not asking the DU to track like interest component and principal. We're trying to make it very simple. So maybe if I had that discussion, it would help in her discussion with the software vendor.
Yeah, I would be in favor of that. Yep. BJ?
Yep. Sounds good.
You want to get a consensus of the board, see if everybody agrees with that?
Can I just
Yeah,
ask,
go ahead.
so you're going to vet the customer that wants to purchase the efficiency equipment? Is that right?
We would
EVT.
not. There are two steps the customer would have to go through.
Mhm.
They would need to make sure, with Efficiency Vermont, that the project they're proposing is going to save more money than what the monthly bill will be. For the loan.
They have to prove that.
So Efficiency Vermont will do the analysis to
Okay.
determine whether it qualifies or not, and they will tell BHFA and BEPSA, yes, this is a viable project. That's the first step. Second step is the customer has to have at least 12 months of history with the utility paying their bill. So if somebody is not paying the bill, they won't qualify for the loan.
Okay.
But they don't have to go through a credit check or anything. They just have to show that they have paid their electric bill for the last 12 months, and that will clear that hurdle.
And
So Efficiency Vermont will handle that whole upfront part. They will determine if the customer is qualified. They will pass the customer to VHFA, who will handle the loan piece and calculate what the payment is and all of that. And then VHFA will work directly with Johnson to make sure that you got the right numbers and the information you need to interact with the customer. Where VEPSA comes in is helping make sure that the tariff gets approved, that it's designed properly, gets approved. And then if you need any assistance with questions or interface with Efficiency Vermont on the back end, we would act more as your advocate than anything else.
okay. And we can get into the program anytime and get out anytime.
Well, I would say you could probably cease, offering it to customers, but once a customer project is done, the distribution utility would be obligated to continue collecting payment for those projects that have been done. And, I will say the term of this program can be up to 15 years, depending on the project.
So I got one other question, Ken. So let's say the electric bill is $100 and your loan payment is 20. They give us $100. We take it off the top for a utility first, correct?
Correct. So the RAP charge, the name of the program's RAP, is always subordinate to all the utility efficiency charges.
Okay.
We're always second to you guys.
To go back,
Go ahead.
to further answer your question, though, opting in could be any time. With the caveat that VHFA got this money from the legislature. So there's $10 million that's earmarked for this project. If there's a huge amount of uptake, then that money will run out and it may not be replenished. That's the risk you're taking by waiting to get in. As Ken said, on the backside, once you agree to do the program and you have customers enrolled, it's really hard then to back out and say, no, we're not going to collect the loan money anymore. So once you make the decision to go in, you're kind of committed until that customer or customers that you're committed to finish paying off the loan.
Right, but can we stop new customers anytime, right?
Anytime.
Okay. Thank you.
So I'd be in favor of Ken working with Rosemary to see what the software cost would be, and then having further discussions at our regular monthly meeting for April.
Yep, sounds good. Sounds good. Rosemary?
All right. So yeah, so Ken, reach out to Rosemary and
Okay.
figure what you have to do.
Okay, we are all set with that. Thank you very much.
Thank
Let's
you.
go back to.
You don't need to hang out, if you don't
RJ.
want to. You can leave if you'd like.
You wanna
you
come
know. I didn't know if you wanted to. No, if you're talking to her.
Her name is Bronte.
Bronte.
Oh, you're asking who's on me.
Yes, you can leave if you'd like. You don't have to sit and listen to all this. Yeah, I didn't know. I figured you were, but it's probably nothing you want to listen to.
But yeah, RJ, you have the floor.
You want me to talk to Mike?
Yeah, please.
Okay, so thank you for having the fire department. I got two things that I think are sort of quick to go over. Peter Dodge, Craig Carpenter, they're the two assistant chiefs. They've been working on the projects with me. So the first thing I want to do is just kind of give you a quick update of the replacement for Rescue 2. That was the stuff that was approved in January. As you can imagine, it's not quite as easy as what we were hoping for. There's no trucks to be bought. Everything has to be planned and ordered, and the prices are a little bit challenging. With that said, though, the fire department continues to maintain the two priorities that we spoke about in the beginning. We do not want to exceed our funding, our capital truck plan, the available funding. We don't want to pass anything on to the taxpayer. And we do want to make sure that the truck can do the job. There may have to be some concessions made to get through the project, but at the end of it, we don't want to be any less capable. So we're replacing what we call Rescue 2. So it's a 1-ton utility style pickup truck. That one has a diesel engine. As we started to price things out, the diesel option became a very early option that had a real high price tag. So it brings about a $10,000 or $11,000 upcharge. So the prices on the cabin chassis, what we're gonna suggest is that we make the concession of going to a gasoline, a V8 gas engine. For the uses that we have, the towing and stuff, I think it will definitely serve our purposes. Ideally, the diesel would be something that we would look at, but we just don't feel that we can accomplish it. So, in working with Capital City GMC, what we're proposing is to buy a GMC 3500, so a 1-ton dually cabin chassis. We want to put a service style body on it, a compartmentalized body, very similar to the one that we have. And then we have to do our lettering and warning lights and that package. So by holding to the sort of the priority of not letting the project grow, a 1-ton gas GMC gas cabin chassis will bring a price tag of a rough number 42,000. The service body quotes are about 12,000. And for a placeholder right now for the reflective striping, the lettering, the warning lights, the radio, the electronic installations, we would like to have a placeholder of about 9,000. So that would make the project look like about a $63,000 expense. We have tried to do a little bit of research, just inputting stuff with Kelly Blue Book and stuff. The truck that we have should have a value of somewhere around 12 to 17,000. So by turning that into either trade-in, which is what I would prefer, make it kind of all one package, or whether it's an outright sale, if we applied 12,000 to that, we'd be at 51,000. That's where the capital line item is. If we got 15,000, we'd be at 48,000. Maybe possibly we'd have a little positive contribution to the capital savings in the end. The capital savings plan does not have any requirement to input money from the sale of the truck. It just plans on the expense for the replacement. So kind of in a nutshell, I mean, unless you guys sort of have questions or give me different direction, that's the update based on the motion, the direction you gave us in January. And we'd like to go ahead and kind of get our orders placed. It's a 4 or 5 month lead time on all this stuff. Basically, my sort of goal of coming tonight is to make sure that, you know, middle of the summer when the truck arrives, it is sort of what you expected. No surprises, you know, nothing's hidden. It's not like it's going to happen in the next couple of weeks. And so I just want to be as clear as I can about where we are and what we want for the end game.
What year was it? The truck?
The truck is a 2004.
The one you're getting?
No, the one we're getting is a 22.
22.
Yeah, a 3500 GMC Sierra 3500 with a 6-liter V8 gas.
And that's planned to stay in the fleet for how long?
That truck has a $15-year life expectancy, which is a year shorter than the current truck that we had at 2020 when we first visited the project before COVID. So the life expectancy is essentially mirroring what we have.
Okay.
And when you talk about the life expectancy, is that the body or is that engine or is it?
That's when the truck would be due for replacement within the rotation of the 6-truck fleet. So the truck is expected to operate and perform for a 15-year period. And at that time, funding would be available to cycle that vehicle out and look at replacing that particular one.
So it's not based on the condition of the truck. You're rolling it through is what you're doing.
Right. So when we built the plan is maybe I think the plan was adopted in 2017, but we did our most recent, 2007. We did our most recent revisions, updates in 2019. And basically what we're looking at is in order to have a contribution that goes into that plan that can be sustainable for the fleet as a whole, We also tried to assign the longest life expectancy that we thought we could out of a truck. 15 years, yes, it's a long time. The success in that is the fact that it stays inside its garage, we can sort of stretch it out there so that money is available, so that we have a savings plan that is available to do this. So, this is one of the smallest rigs, 51,000, 60,000. The next one coming in 2024 is $500,000. So any little ripple or any little sort of waiver adjustment creates a potential restriction or changes the scenario in the future.
So all your officers like that idea.
Yes.
What did you say, Ken? I didn't.
I asked them if all of the officers like the idea of going with this truck.
Oh,
Yeah, we all kind of agree that if money was available, we would try to have the diesel auction, mostly for the towing.
Yeah.
But the reality is for the usage and for the frequency, we're very comfortable with this. I think it's a reasonable kind of give and take. Because like I said, it's sort of super important to us to stay within that budget, because a little bit of extra money now makes a real big effect on a truck that's having some savings 10 or 15 years down the road.
Well, even with the decision on going with non-diesel like that, you're staying well within the budget, so.
Right, I believe we can accomplish this within the budget, so there shouldn't be any new burden, and maybe if things are successful, we might actually have a little bit of contribution that could be thrown into that particular savings account.
You to me.
what's the mileage on like that truck? What's the mileage on it?
Oh, it's low mileage, Diane. I honestly don't know. I don't.
Well, yeah, I'm just, I don't want to sound like I'm being picky, but if you undercoat and all of that, could you make them last longer? Or is that not a viable kind of thing?
So we do some undercoating, we do underbody washing and stuff annually, so all of those ideas are viable. I think that the most recent round of edits that we did in 2019 took into account sort of every effort we could do for that. If money wasn't a factor, I would like to have the trucks rotated a little bit more frequently. Right? Some of the bigger trucks are on a 25-year cycle. The smaller trucks, they fit in, like 2 pickups is the equivalent of 1 big truck. So they're on basically 15 years. It's kind of equivalent to that 25, 30-year life. That's sort of how the plan was drawn up. What we did find is last year, last year and the year before, we did have a couple substantial repairs. The road conditions, we broke rear springs. We've had to do some stuff that would support replacing the truck. So I think anything that we extend out will start to create an expense that is really kind of an offset to the rotation.
Okay, thank you.
Awesome, thank you for the update.
Okay, so the second thing that we want to discuss with you is, I guess, sort of a little like a safety thing that kind of recently came up. So earlier this winter, just the tail end of 21, we learned that the fire helmets that we have actually have a rated lifespan. I didn't know that. It's not anything we've ever dealt with in the past. There's no like past practices or anything. So what we learned that the NFPA standard, so the standard for safety equipment, the fire industry standard, NFPA says that the helmets are a valid safety item for 10 years from the date of their manufacture. Currently, most of what we have exceeds that. I would comfortably say absolutely easily 75%. And if we go through the inventory of stuff one-on-one, I bet you we're going to push closer to about 90%. So that was a little sort of an eye-opening thing, it requires some attention, right? So I checked in with one of the vendors that we get our turnout gear from, our coat and paint thing, basically trying to see what type of a project is this, because this is nothing we've ever done with. To replace the helmets that we have will be about a $12,000 to $15,000 project. So we spent some time trying to think about like finance strategies and stuff like that. We looked at the passive grant with Meredith and stuff. That particular item this year, that has been restricted to a maximum award of $1,000. That doesn't really provide any relief to us. We've been working with Rosemary on sort of trying to understand our closeout, our year-end stuff for 2021. We knew that there would be a small amount of money available in our payroll because last year's payroll ended up being slightly under what we had budgeted. So we knew there was going to be a little bit of money there, and that's what sort of spawned the conversation with Rosemary to have her try to help us sort of figure that out. She also, in working through that process, we found an accounting error that we had essentially paid more for our insurance expense last year than what the fire department's portion was. So now that that accounting adjustment has been made, there's essentially some money there that, you know, throughout the year, we had looked at it as a pay stuff that had already been spent. So there's an amount of money there. She can probably maybe speak to it, you know, a little bit more in detail, but the end result of the year end is that the fire department has about an $8,000 surplus through the payroll and the insurance adjustments and stuff. I would like to ask you guys to earmark that $8,000 towards the helmet replacement project. I've spoke about this condition with the firefighters. You know, it's real, it's something that needs attention. They're willing to try to, the general consensus is they're willing to put some fundraising efforts and stuff into this to maybe try to help close up the gap. There may be some gear and accessory money in the current budget we're in that we could apply towards that. But before we actually start like looking at shopping, I wanted to try to have some sort of a solution that we could offer up as a method to fix or improve this situation. And so I'm asking for the earmarking of the 8,000 to go towards that project.
So you think you'd be able to fundraise the other $4,000 to $7,000?
I think that between being able to maybe put some of this year's purchase money into it and some fundraising, I think we might be able to get there. I'm also hoping that if this is a reality, that we can actually kind of really negotiate and try to drive a hard bargain with the actual price per piece, right? All I did was essentially say, you know, here's the NFPA requirement, this is what we need, times the number of stuff in our inventory. I'm hoping that I can be on the low end of that, not land at the $15,000, $16,000 side of it. I can't promise that, but until we really start hammering at those guys, I just try to get the right.
So what if we couldn't, you say you can't come up with that, you know, and say you're still 5,000 short? What's your options? Is to pick the ones that possibly are gonna be the actual firefighters and then try to rotate in like your equipment, your gear? The last bit?
That is one option. Another option might be able to take a loan from the small tools fund and then try to remake up that contribution, say 2 or 3 years down the road. So I don't really have the answer to that, Ken, other than I think there might be some creative ways that we can solve the problem. Initially, I think, you know, the high-risk people and trying to drive a real tough negotiation on the price is the best place to be, and then figure out the gap that we have to close.
I'm assuming for efficiency, it's easier for you to just buy them all one shot, right? And then, and try to, for getting the best deal like that.
I think that would help us with the deal, Steve. I think it's more about the liability, right? I mean, currently.
Oh, you wouldn't want to have a mix of.
Well, now that we know that we have a situation that needs some attention, if only half of the guys got it, you know, the reality is we're aware of people that are running equipment that doesn't meet the safety standard. That potential liability could be a little bit of a bigger monster than if we had to borrow a little money and move a little money from one account to the other. those helmets that I've looked at are, you know, in the 15, 16-year life range right now. So somebody would be out.
Sounds to me like they're like $300 to $500 a piece, right?
They're gonna be, yeah, right, they're gonna approach the $450, $500, yes.
So we should definitely be looking at putting this in the revolving.
Absolutely, that needs some attention, that needs planning. We need to be prepared for this now that we are aware of an item that has a known schedule. It's nothing that I've ever dealt with in the past, so that needs to be something that is planned for.
How do new firefighters come into the department? Do they get a new hat and all of that, or how does that work? I have no idea.
No, so we do have some used spare gear, so a new member will start out with adequate but used gear. As they go through their skill sets and as they reach certain qualifications, there might be some upgrades that need to be done. So there's training steps that can happen as qualifications grow. If there's a more specific or a more modern piece, then that would be granted to them. But until somebody essentially can show us the long-term commitment, we can't just buy the gear. So, you know, for instance, your bunker gear is $5,000, just your coat and pants. You got $300-400 in your boots, you got $500 in your helmet, you got probably $250 in gloves. So nobody gets a new set. We on entry we use adequate, but
So have you been buying used gear, or have you just been using what you've had?
for gear. So the helmets.
For the helmets, yeah, for
The
the
helmets
helmets.
have never been replaced. So this is
Wow.
the first time that this has come to light. The gear purchase that happens in the small tools, every year we have a line item where we purchase 2 or 3 sets of gear. From those, you end up with 1 or 2 sets that are still usable. So that's where the garment supply comes from. The helmets, everybody's helmet is old and outdated, with the exception of maybe 3 or 4 to be honest with you.
Lisa,
No. Motion to earmark the surplus towards helmets. Is your motion
Do you want to let?
after the motion, before the vote?
I'll motion that we earmark the 8,000 approximately that they've discovered for use on new helmets for the Johnson Fire Department.
I'll second that motion.
Lisa?
Rosemary, has the village used their LCPC and the insurance company grant that we're working on Friday? Have they put in for that?
That does not qualify. They're only $1,000 worth.
They only get $1,000. They only qualify for that. So has that been used though? Because I mean, $1,000 is $1,000 they don't fundraise.
Or could it be used?
Passive grant, yeah.
You guys are already using it.
The passive grant, we have got passive grants in the past. This particular year, when the $1,000 would have been the maximum award that we could get, we essentially passed and tried to promote. I know that the electric department and the sewer department is going to be putting in for a passive grant. That was the information. We elected not to compete for funds to try to promote that. We have gotten grants in the past, and we just all sort of reciprocate, so we're not competing amongst the departments. So $1,000 is $1,000, absolutely, but in the realm of what we did, we made a conscious decision to take a pass on it as far as our.
Thank you, Lisa. Anybody else? No. I'm spoke, right?
Call the question.
Well,
Call the question.
question. What do you mean? Call the
Call
question?
question. Take a vote.
Oh, okay. Okay, how do you guys vote?
Aye.
I
Chair is aye, unanimous, passes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Do you have anything else from fire department?
Congratulations on your new recruit. There, I saw you guys posted the other young ladies joined. Good job.
Sure. While you're up here, did you want to do your report, fire department report?
So who just
Saves me
signed
from
up,
having to do it.
RJ?
One of the junior firefighter, Taylor Lagoon. So she's in the junior program, and a month or so ago, as far as a regular firefighter, we welcome aboard Peter Hayward.
Great.
Awesome.
Well, nice. So where did they hear about it?
So Peter, it's my understanding, Peter had relocated, had some fire service in the background and was just sort of interested in seeking it out. Taylor is a relative of mine, and she has some people on her side of the family that are in the fire service, and so she had an interest in
Well, that's really great.
giving it a try.
Yeah.
So is it just
Yep.
read
Go ahead,
through
yep.
as your typical
Just read it
process?
through.
Okay, so the fire department report from the period of January 27 to February 24. We had 9 calls. 3 of those calls were during the daytime hours, which is that 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. definition. 6 of the calls were during the night. The average duration was 105 minutes. So the type of calls, we had 1 structure fire, 1 automatic alarm, 2 vehicle crashes, 1 CO alarm, 1 medical assist, 2 mutual aids, which were a structure fire and a vehicle accident, and 1 other, which was a chemical investigation. The average number of firefighters that responded was 12. The total hours of service for that period is 163 hours. In the other category, we had a malfunction of our boiler, so we actually have found ourselves without heat and hot water. We contacted County Plumbing. They conducted an on-site diagnosis. They made some repairs. There are parts underway. It is still a work in progress, but that occurred during that period. And we're working on available options for Rescue 2, and we hope to have an update at your March meeting.
Perfect.
Thank you, RJ.
Thank you, and thank you for the
Thanks,
update on the
Craig.
truck.
Thank you,
Peter, for coming. And your service.
Okay, next, Dan, you have the floor, NATO well.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
On the wastewater side, the EDMR and WR42 was submitted to the state. We had 1 call out for a power bomb through the high winds. One of the washcloth scrapers on our press had worn out. We ordered new rubber, and it made sense at that point to just order enough rubber to do all 4 wash boxes. If one of them was worn out, it was $200 for the rubber to do all of them. So we've replaced the rubber on 2 of the wash boxes, and we'll do the other 2 after our press run tomorrow. We pulled a sewage pump at East Johnson Pump Station that was tripped out. It was not plugged as we thought it was. We thought the pump was bad. We had Laramie Water Resources do the electrical on it, and they found actually it was a start capacitor that was bad. We ordered and installed a new one, and it's now operating properly. So that was a win that it wasn't the pump and it was just a start capacitor. On February 17th, there was a flood warning and we installed the floodgates. We removed them the next day. And on February 22nd, we had another flood watch issued and we installed the floodgates and we removed them the next day. Today, we started national wastewater surveillance sampling for COVID. This program has had proven results for early detection of COVID rates. They've done it throughout the country for the last year. Basically, you can detect COVID in wastewater before it's detected anywhere else. And so now they're going to smaller towns around, and we were asked by the state if we wanted to participate. It's sampling our influent for a 24-hour period twice weekly. We send the samples to a contracted lab for testing. Participation has 0 cost to the village. All costs are covered by a CDC grant to this laboratory. We were sampling for roughly 9 months. It takes about a half an hour a week for us to gather and ship the samples, so it's not a big time consuming for us. That was the big thing, as long as it wasn't a lot of extra work for us. And as part of participating, we will receive a free auto sampler. Our present sampler is about 25 years old and it's showing its age. It's failed on us several times. A new sampler is in the $5,000 to $6,000 range. So
Wow.
it's a good win. It's a good win for the village,
Yeah.
to do that and to have a brand new sampler now. So we'll also have access to the results. They'll trend all the results for us.
So you'll be able to give us results each month if you find it.
Yeah, I don't know how that all is working out yet. How I don't know if they'll release it every month or not or whatever. But yeah, I mean, I'll obviously share anything that I
Yep.
find out on.
No, I didn't know if that was the reasoning for them to do it.
Oh, yeah. So I mean, obviously, yeah, they want to trend it. And I think this also is going to serve as for future pandemics, whatever, that, to see that this works and that it could possibly be, helpful down the road for anything else. And we started painting some of the trim inside of the plant. On the water side, the coliform samples were negative. We sampled Osgood well for iron and manganese, nitrates, and volatile organic compounds. All results were well below the state of Vermont's limits. The chlorine analyzer down there is not reading properly. We found the thermometer is not reading correctly, which is throwing the chart off. We're looking into the cost of a new one. It does not affect the chlorine dosing. This only affects the chart recording of the dose. We also manually track that dosing. So if it's something that's going to be that expensive, we probably will just manually track it and save money. And water loss for February was 12%.
That's good. It's
Yep.
down from the last 2 months.
So on the Nadu well, as y'all remember, the natives asked us if they could basically terminate the lease because of the all the source protection area that we have around it. Got in touch with the state. Finally, they came back with what actually would need to be done for the well. We'd actually have to physically have a break in the pipe and air gap between the well and the village system, which we can do with 2 flanges. We've looked at it. Once that's done, we can cease testing on that well. If we ever needed to use that well again, it is now not an emergency, it's just an emergency well, not a backup well. They do not drink, order would have to be issued to the town, do not boil, I do not drink oil, which is much more harsh than the do not boil. We have a bunch of sampling that's due this month on that well. If you decide tonight that you want to terminate the lease with them, we don't have to do that sampling. We have to physically break that pipe, have an air gap, put the flanges on, whatever. And then we'll be released from all the source protection, everything that goes along with that.
They will also.
Yeah. My issue is that we don't have that backup pump for Osgood well. And if April 1st, that well pump dies, it's 16 to 20 weeks to get a new well pump. That's 16 to 20 weeks at NBU and every business and everything's on do not drink order.
Is that on order? Or have
It's
we?
not on order until the village budget is approved. It's in this year's budget. It's $25,000 for the well pump. And it is in the water budget. The more I'm thinking about it, the $800 in testing to me, I say we test in March. We wait until we get that well pump. Then we can terminate the lease. And originally the natives were talking about, they knew it could take up to a year. I mean, they weren't thinking this was going to happen overnight, you know. And hopefully they won't have any issues with that. But
I think if we let them know that we're working on it and it's.
that it's on order.
99% chance.
I just, I'm really hesitant. That well pump's 16 years old. And it pumps a lot of water. You know as well as I do that bad always happens as soon as you bank on it. But it's ultimately your call. That's my recommendation.
So it's budgeted in.
It's in this year's budget that if that passes at the village meeting, we can order it the next day.
Oh, so the village meeting is when we.
The budget, yeah.
I really can't order it before the budget's passed. Being that big of an item.
Is
So
there,
that's like 2.5 weeks away, right? That we can do that.
Yeah. It just means we have to sample this well, because otherwise we'll be issued a notice of alleged violation for non-sample. If we don't sample March, and it's due by the end of March. So unfortunately, it's,
Yeah, so I'll go with Dan's recommendations to stay with it for now and sample.
Yeah, I don't think.
we have a second?
choice.
Yeah.
Take it up at a later date. I mean, the NATO's, I think they definitely deserve us to get off on it.
Yeah.
Down the road, and I'm sure that if it's gonna take a little longer than they wanted and it's gonna happen, I'm sure they're gonna be right on board.
getting stuff out of the state, this answer. I mean, I had 3 emails and phone call before I finally got hold of the guy today. And it was like, it's terrible deal.
Does that make sense,
It's taking longer than I thought.
okay, is there a second?
I didn't motion anything yet.
Oh.
I was just agreeing.
Oh,
I
okay.
wanted to know, Will, do you have anything to say?
Unmute here. Yeah, so Kenny, I agree with you that Dan's opinion is extremely valid. I would like to move it forward tonight with the current board and go ahead and make a motion that we disconnect the NATO well after the pump is in our hands. So they have kind of a guarantee that we're moving to disconnect that and give that back to them, but we also don't do it before it's jeopardizes the entire village.
Yep.
So if you want to make that motion or something like that, I think that would be something to discuss and then vote on.
You guys agree with all that?
Yeah, I'll make a motion that we disconnect the NATO well as soon as we have the spare pump here.
I'll second that.
Any comments from public?
When you have to change that pump, how long does that take?
Monash could do it in a day.
Oh, so. does-
I mean,
doesn't mean-
if we could get them, I mean, we have 3 days worth of water in the reservoir under normal conditions. So I anticipate within 3 days, we could.
So there
easily
wouldn't
get
be like
swapped out.
no water. for a
Right,
few hours.
right. Yeah, no, at most maybe, it took them 2 days to get it down there, but that's what they do for. So, and if you say you're a municipality and it's your drinking water, you tend to go to the top of the list.
Reach your minute. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
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 And
Motion
should somebody
passed.
craft something to maybe the neighbors so we can know where we stand on this? But don't know how in the loop they are.
Yeah, I can call out if that works, or I'm sure one of us will. We need it in writing.
Or they could all would be fine.
I'll call out.
So Kenny will call him. Okay, thank you, Dan. Okay. Next is Troy, you have the floor?
Yep, can you hear me okay?
Yep.
In the electric department, the crew repaired an overhead secondary service at 809 Plot Road. They also repaired the streetlight that was damaged by a tree near the cold spring. We removed 2 temporary secondary services at Maple Fields. Nate worked with a technician to reboot the R2 breaker at the substation. The breaker panel had shut down after it received a bump on the transmission line. The crew also completed monthly meter reading, high-low checks, and dig safes. In water and sewer, the crew assisted H2O with a village digger truck to remove the East Johnson sewer pump so repairs could be made. In the general department, we had 2 bigger storms during the last month that required sidewalk and parking space snow removal in addition to the routine sanding. The crew repaired a fuel sensor on the small Bobcat. They also assisted the village garage engineers to remove insulation panels from the walls and ceilings to determine the extent of structural damage related to the moisture. In safety, rubber gloves and sleeves were sent out for 3-month testing. All dielectric tools and equipment, as well as grounding sets, went through the annual testing procedures with no issues. Both bucket trucks and digger trucks were also tested and passed. I continued working with the Gould Electric foreman on a new 600 amp service that'll feed the Studio Center's Red Mill building. I was able to source a 600 amp meter socket for that project. The electrician had been unable to locate one. The job should be completed within the next 2 weeks. I finished signing up the crew for the monthly NEPA safety training programs. I placed Jeff on a waiting list for a Class A CDL training through NEPA. Nate and I met with a customer at 823 Route 15 West. We'll be installing a new 200 amp overhead secondary service there. And I created an estimate for that job today. I worked with Meredith to finalize the 2022 electric and general department budgets. Meredith and I worked with the village garage engineers to develop a plan for the evaluation at the garage and to schedule the work. We also had a conference call with Lion Electric regarding the electric bucket truck. They informed us that delivery has been pushed back from mid-2022 to mid-23. Currently, I'm not expecting an increase in the cost of the truck. Meredith has put me in contact with a state employee who oversees a grant agreement for the truck, and she has indicated that she will extend the grant deadline to June 30th, 2024. I'll be speaking with her monthly to discuss updates related to that truck. We're also going to be applying for a passive safety grant. We're looking to get a new rigid underground locator. It's used for locating primary and secondary underground cables. We also can locate metal water lines, primarily used during the dig safe process. Our current locator is probably 25 years old. And I understand that Dan is also putting in for some barriers for the grit channel at the sewer plant. Both these items combined are about 4,500. The max grant we allotted was 6,000. I'd be looking for a motion for I'd be looking for a motion to authorize Rosemary to sign that application for that grant. That's all I have.
Is there a motion for the PACIF safety grant application?
So motion that Rosemary can sign.
I'll second it.
Okay, public?
I don't have a question about that, but I have a question about his report. You want to go ahead with that? What you're doing?
Yeah, I
I'll
would.
ask him after.
Yeah, I will go with this one. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Aye. Well, we can't hear you. He said aye. Okay, good.
I see his lips move.
Aye. Okay, motion pass. Go ahead.
Thank you, Troy.
So I have a question. So when you do things for like the Red Mill and for Maple, do they get billed for that? Or is that part of just the power that the village supplies to them?
Yes, they get billed depending on what the project is. At the beginning of the project, I create an estimate, and that estimate is to cover our costs for our work.
Thanks.
Okay, next.
Thank you, Troy.
Oops, sorry. Thanks, Troy.
Thank you.
Vermont. Next, Vermont Studio Center request for excess water usage bill adjustment.
Rosemary, does this fall under our standard request?
Yes, they had a bill for water and sewer that was over $1,000. And their average monthly bill is about $47.
What caused the,
Yeah.
They left the door open and didn't have the heat on.
so the pipe froze?
Yes. This is on the Mason House by Clay Hill.
Oh, if I click on it.
And they have had it repaired. The basement flooded with a dirt floor.
So it didn't,
Or
it
carpeted,
didn't go in the
dry
sewer.
currently.
So does this meet?
Yes, definitely needs the,
Does?
yes.
Okay, do we have a motion? Well,
I make a motion to adjust the water usage billing for the Vermont Studio Center for 5 Clay Hill. For the usage bill, which was $1,222.87 for the month of January.
okay, do we have a second?
So is that the amount you're adjusting it?
They're gonna adjust it to
From-
143.66.
From, yes,
That's 3 times the average. The 3 bills.
Okay, do we have a second?
Second,
Okay, all in favor?
Discussion.
Or discussion, sorry.
So there's no policy in here for,
Yeah, it's on
for
the back.
negligence.
I'm just not-
I mean, I'm all for forgiveness, you know, I was just curious, you know, if they're not checking on their building or maintaining their building, it said it's been empty for 18+ months.
Well, I wonder if they might have insurance that would cover.
Well, that's, I mean, I'm all for reducing it. I just wanted to make it clear that there should be some kind of policy stating that if you have a building that you're not maintaining for 18+ months, you should have had the town turn the water off a long time ago for the village. You know, that's all. So, I mean, if we don't, I think we ought to discuss that down the road after we're all done with the annual meeting and stuff. I mean, there's obviously, you know, there's out of the realm of things happen, obviously, but.
Kenny, I would say if it's been vacant for 18 months and they had one water break, you know, that's definitely falls into the accident thing because there's been a lot of cold nights, so.
Yeah, I was just saying, I was just asking if there was some kind of policy for negligence on their part.
But that definitely sounds good later on down the road, having something like if you're gonna have abandoned building. Do something
That, you know, I mean, it's just generally, you know, being a carpenter that I am, if we're gonna shut down a building, we're gonna drain the water lines and we're gonna have the water turned off. So I think we ought to look at that possibly down the road.
But any other discussions? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, motion passes.
Here's the other. That's a water permit application. This is for 405 Railroad Street restroom. They had a pipe break in the restroom that they do not use much. So they didn't notice it for a day or two. And none of the water went into the sewer. They had a bill of $362. And their average bill was about $48 a month. So 3 times the average bill would be $143.67.
Yeah, so they're not asking to pay for they're just saying they're just asking to not pay for the sewer chart part, which they're saying the water didn't go in there. They're agreeing to pay for the water itself, right?
I think it's the total bill, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a total.
It's just the total. And so
Okay.
then we average it,
Okay.
we'll okay it for 143.67. Instead of them paying 362. Yeah.
Any discussion?
Well, we can't very well approve the other one without doing this one too, I don't think.
Okay, motion?
I'll make a motion that we approve the bill adjustment for Greg Tatro for 405 Railroad Street restroom
In the amount of?
in the amount of 143.67.
Second?
Second it.
Okay, any questions from the public?
Now,
Okay.
we have, there's a policy, right?
Yes.
That, okay, they can
It's
only
attached to
do
this.
it so many times a year.
Once in 12-month period.
In a 12-month period. Okay,
Okay.
thank you.
How do you guys vote?
Aye.
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 Aye, motion passes. Mask policy.
In the office, we'd like to relax the mask mandate. For employees that they do not have to wear masks, they choose not to. Except when you're working with a customer, when they're really close, and then they shall wear a mask.
Yeah, I feel basically we'll put it in place for you guys, and if you guys feel comfortable at this time, then we'll keep going along with what you guys want.
And if anything should change, you know, the numbers, if we choose to go back to the mask, then we just want.
So you were looking for the same thing with the select board.
Yeah.
I think
Yeah,
pretty
it's
much.
really
what
up to you. I think.
Isn't a CDC right now, and it's up to
No mask.
everybody's choice, it's choice. Okay,
So I motion that we remove the mask mandate for the office, for the employees. And that it can be changed at any time for the
We
increase.
get an employee
Yeah,
consensus.
and I motion that we allow Rosemary to make that change for whether they should be wearing masks and then bring it to us later.
Second,
Well, hang on. In the public, when the public enters the cubicle and works
They still have to wear
individually, they still have to wear a mask. Is that clear enough, Don?
second,
I'll second it.
okay, any questions from the public? No. All in favor?
Aye.
All right.
Aye.
Aye.
Congratulations to
Unanimous,
freedom.
motion passes. Okay. So village manager hiring process. RFP for recruiting search firm.
I actually got a resume today that looks promising.
The whole stack, each one.
Yep. Let
A
me know if you
promising
wanna-
resume?
One I think most promising is so far.
Anybody we know? Did you get this already, Will, or?
No, I have not emailed it to him.
No.
Oh, this is a resume for the
Resume was
person
that-
to search for a manager.
No, this
No.
is for the manager position.
Oh,
Yep.
And you liked it, you said, huh, Rosemary?
That's the best one I've seen.
A lot of the qualifications we're looking for. I motion we make an appointment with this person to interview. And I think we ought to try it before we do the Kingpin hires one.
I agree.
If we can do it in a reasonable amount of time, I don't think we ought to wait till next month to decide on that. But we're possibly having a meeting next week. Is that what you're saying, BJ?
Yep, that's what I'm
Maybe
pushing
we can put the two together, the interview and the meeting.
Be awesome, but. Is that,
So what are people's availability for a meeting next week?
was that, well,
What are people's availability for a meeting next week? If we got this on the table, let's get to it.
if as long as it's after 6, I'm good.
Next Wednesday is good for me, next Wednesday or Friday.
Friday's gonna,
Friday's good for you.
I'm totally flexible.
So next Friday, 6 PM.
yes,
Is anybody not available Wednesday?
I can't.
Yeah, Diane can't.
So it's really gonna depend on if we can also interview them, right?
Yeah, I would,
So maybe if you could contact them, Rosemary, and then get back to us with,
See Friday or the next, it's next Wednesday after, that's not our public meeting, is it?
it's 23rd or 25th. Yeah, I would see if they're, I mean, it's up to BJ right now, but I'd recommend seeing if they're available the 23rd or 25th, and then having Rosemary set the schedule according to what they can come to, and we can always talk about the other stuff.
I mean, even if they could do it Wednesday and Diane couldn't be there just to get it started, Diane, would that make sense?
Say that again, sorry.
If we could get the person to do the interview on Wednesday, perhaps, even though you're not gonna be there, we'd have the minutes from it.
Sure.
And it's gonna be more than one interview. You could maybe come up with some questions and one of us could throw them out there for you.
Sure.
Does that,
Well.
just to
find
try to
out.
get them quicker, you know what I mean? It's not says they're gonna do it. I was just throwing it out there that if we could, maybe we could get in quicker on if it's just that interview. Because we need a manager, some kind of bad.
I'd say give them an alternative Wednesday or the 23rd or 25th, and whichever one they can meet, then we'll just schedule the other items we're going to talk about on our next meeting. So
Okay, so we'll have an open-ended for the 23rd or 25th, and we'll make the decision here as soon as we hear from the.
as soon as Rosemary hears back which one they're available for, then we'll set a meeting for that time would be my suggestion.
Because we don't need to warn the interview, we just need to warn we will for the interview.
Yeah. Okay. So you're gonna have one meeting next week, not two.
Right, it's either gonna be the 23rd or the 25th, whatever the person
Applicant
can do.
Okay.
Okay.
Do we need a motion for that?
So I suggest we table the RFP discussion until after the meeting with the applicant.
I agree.
That's representative, right? For VEPSA?
No, the RFP,
No, RFP. Oh,
putting out for a headhunter.
Skip the page.
Item 3. So Steve and I think we should put it on hold until after we talk to the applicant.
Talk to the applicant. See if. Yeah, right.
okay. Do we need any kind of motion to push our meeting for the 23rd or 25th? Well,
We can just direct Rosemary to set the meeting according to what the applicant's availability is, and then she'll warn it.
okay. Okay, she'll take care of that. Perfect. Okay, next, appoint village representative for the VEPSA board. Troy has offered to do that for the next 2 weeks and help us out. Any discussions?
I make a motion, we appoint Troy Dolan as representative for VEPSA board for the next 2 weeks.
I'll second that.
Any discussions? Public? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion passes unanimous. Okay. Budget approvals, 2022.
That's all the stuff here. The wastewater.
This is the Meredith, right? Meredith is,
I doubt it, but
No. She was done Friday.
it's
oh,
done Friday.
okay,
Here's her
so-
narrative of the changes she's made.
so who goes through this or no one, or how does that go?
I'll read it off what the changes she's made.
Yeah,
We've already all kind of signed off on the budget, so.
The permits right there.
I'm not sure where it's at.
Yeah.
you
So,
can't really change the general ones, but that's what you got in your budget for in the warning. You can't change that.
Both of me. Which you can just read this off.
Mhm.
Okay. Wanna read it?
so, wrote, general departments, they made a few adjustments. Expense side. Should decrease the contract service expense from 3,500 to reflect lower costs of her time, Meredith's time. Increase the village building and grounds heat line item slightly up to $12,397 to reflect higher fuel costs, which is probably still gonna be enough. Should decrease the storm drain maintenance line item just slightly. It is still an increase of 25% over the 21 figures. Increase the equipment, fuel and oil. Bobcat fuel to reflect higher fuel costs. After she had a conversation with RJ, she increased the fire department heat line item by 25% over the 2021 actual to reflect higher fuel costs. The general department budget is balanced with no increase on property tax. This is from Meredith, correct?
Yes.
Any questions on that one, guys? Pretty much what we already know, I guess. You good, Will?
Yes, sir.
The water department, she made a few adjustments there. On the expense side, I'm sure we should discuss this with you, Dave. Increase the office outside contract services to include both her time and a portion of the village garage engineering fee. She added an expense of $7,409 for completion of Katie Wynn PR project.
The engineering for it.
Oh, okay, yeah. She also added the offset USDA grant revenue, so this does not impact the bottom line of the budget for the water department. The projected deficit based on these expenses was $52,024. So she added $52,024 under miscellaneous revenue to represent the use of the ARPA funds to balance the budget. Obviously, it's if the year finishes better than the budget, a smaller amount of ARPA funds could be used to balance the budget. Sewer department, on the revenue side, she added loan revenues of $195,920 to reflect the loan proceeds from the bond bank for the River Road Pump Station project. She also added correspondence expense, so there's no bottom line impact on the budget. On the expense side, she made a few adjustments. She increased the computer support line to provide a smaller buffer overall of 21 actual. She increased the chemical line slightly based on the update cost figures from Dan. Was that a lot?
So right there, one thing I looked back through, we developed this budget 2 months ago before fuel prices went through the roof. The heat for the plant down there is propane, which isn't as reactive as fuel, but it's gonna go up. We have 7,500 in the budget. We spent 7,239 last year. I think we should increase that line. It's gonna change the numbers, but I mean, it's either that or you're gonna run a deficit next year. There's no doubt in my mind with prices. Especially when you increase it to.
What did you spend last year, you said?
7,239 we spent last year. We budgeted 7,500 this year.
What line is that?
It is 58.
There, I mean,
It's heat under the building and grounds.
what are you thinking? You gotta be more than a $500 jump.
Yeah,
Well, what do you think?
I'm thinking 9,500.
How many gallons you used last year?
7,239. That's up dollars for $7,239.
What was the average price last year of it?
Well, we should get locked in, right?
I don't know what they do.
I don't think. I get it locked in. I don't know about municipalities.
Yeah, we have in the past gotten some prices locked, capped at least. So if you got 72, I mean, I'm paying 269, so I can't imagine we're paying much more than that. If we are.
I'm just wondering like how much it was last year, because
It was.
I mean, to see how much ahead we are now, I mean, because that can make a major difference
$77,239
per gallon.
I mean, if
On
you
how
put
many
it
gallons?
dollars a gallon, that's
The one
24.
advantage, we use very little for the next 8 months.
Correct.
We've already used a chunk of it, and we'll use a chunk of it again in about November. So we may miss the peak.
Yeah, but at $3 a gallon, that's 2,400 gallons. If it goes up $1, it's going to be 2,400 bucks. Like I said, propane is not as volatile as oil, but they can't pass up a chance to raise the price.
So we should jump it to what, 10,000?
Okay, so it was 72 last year. What's the budget this year?
75.
75. Okay.
Like I said, we did this before it jumped, so.
Right.
I just caught it today that we really, we didn't up that at all.
So 72 is 300. So. 20,
Is the actuals for 2020, it's 39.30. Is that because price of propane was low?
Yeah, would be my guess. And it
Because that's,
might have been a warm year. I don't know.
It was warm year, but that, yeah. It was really, really
And
low.
everything was, I mean, gas was down below $2, everything, so.
Yeah. Boy, I wouldn't go much less than 8,500.
We go back even in that 2019, in 18, we spent 9,000.
That was the budget, though.
No, actuals were 89.80 for.
Yeah, we better at least budget 9,000 then. And hoping to get some volume pricing.
Right. Yeah, that's something you might want to look into as well, as far as, we have Clay Hill, we have there, we have, down in the water plants, they're all propane.
So Dan, do you know when, I'm assuming we're under a contract with someone.
Jack F. Horses who delivers, I have no idea whether you're under contract or not.
Okay. Rosemary, can you add fuel delivery contracts to the May meeting?
Okay.
Because it's usually April's when my contracts run out, April and June. So I give us time to talk about it and start looking for purveyors and speak with our current providers to see if we do have a contract when it expires and if they're willing to set up a contract. Thank you.
Question is, do we own the tanks or do the fuel companies own the tanks?
They own the tanks.
What is it?
Yeah.
The fuel companies own the tanks.
Any new company will swap.
Yes.
Well, it depends if they're above ground, below ground. Below ground, I know residentially, the homeowner can buy it. So
Yeah, there's only the two with the plant are underground, the rest are above ground.
okay. So yeah,
They usually do a financial agreement.
I know if you change providers, they'll do a swap on tanks. So that whoever you go with understands that part of the pricing includes providing cores with underground tanks and so on and so forth. So it's done all the time. So it's just a matter of, the negotiation. So
We just went from 72.
It was budgeted for 75.
Okay, 75.
We're up $2,000.
All
So
right, so we're gonna add that to the,
you go to $51,532 instead of $49,532.
$51,532.
How much is decided commission to?
$2,000 more, so it goes to $9,500. I assume if you guys are comfortable with that.
Is that what we said, Will, 95?
at 9,000 minimum.
I think 95 is a good number.
You guys give it 95?
Mhm.
I'm fine with that.
The
Okay,
rest
so
of
the project deficit based on the expense was 49,532, but we just added $2,500 to that, so it brings to 51,532. $2,000, yeah.
Okay.
Under the miscellaneous revenues, to represent the use of the ARPA funds to balance the budget, as noted above. If the year finishes better than budgeted, the village can use less ARPA funds and to balance that budget.
And just a reminder that we are doing a rate study for both the water and the wastewater, which I would expect would kick in some point during this year. In the fall, probably the time it happens, but so that will change revenue, I'm sure. So,
yep.
Increase in it here.
Yep. You can always flat rate for some years before it's gonna kick in the butt.
So Rosemary, the rate increase for the water and sewer is not as regulated as the electric, correct?
Correct. Once the board gives us its approval, you give them 30 days notice, and then you can start charging
Okay.
new rates.
All right. Yeah.
You guys see anything else in there you didn't like?
You guys want to approve the budget as read?
Going back to the water, I just had a question about, so the 25,000 online, I guess it's, I don't know how these lines work, 22-7-50, The purchase capital, that's for the, I'm assuming that's for the spare pump for the NATO,
Correct.
or not for the NATO well, for the main well.
Well, yeah,
So, you're not anticipating us needing any other equipment at all for for next year that on a capital basis?
correct.
Okay.
Just maintenance that we've got money for, regular.
Okay. Thank you.
So. No, I don't think we could ask. I don't know.
Right, that's a big hit.
Anymore.
I just wanted- Yeah, that's a big hit, big enough.
Yeah.
All I know how to do is, I mean, did I have the electric? I didn't see it. Well, electrical department on the revenue side, she increased the merchandising jobbing line item based on conversations with Troy about the work customers have contacted him about, for which he will bill the customer. Line item was increased from 35,000 to 45,000. On the expense side, she made a few adjustments based on discussing increased costs of materials and contractors that Troy has already encountered this year. Increase in safety and operation supplies from 4,000 to 5,000 due to increased costs. Increased meter expense to 1,500 because meters are more costly than last year. Of course. Increase in the labor safety training to 8,000. This is staff wages for the time they are being trained. In 2021, due to the pandemic, staff attended fewer training classes, and 22 figure represents the return of more in-person training. For increased substation maintenance contract from 10,000 to 15,000 due to higher contract costs. Yeah. Increased maintenance line transformers to 37,000 because Troy had already experienced significant cost increases for transformers. Decreased admin outside services to 58,800 to reflect less cost for Meredith's time. This line item consists of legal for 15,000, 23,800 for the garage engineer, 8,000 for management consultant, 5,000 for audit, 6,000 for CRC dispatch, and $1,000 for website work. I didn't get that one, I guess. Oh, line item, the first 15,000 was legal, correct? Project deficit based on these expenses is $113,066. After taking out 80,000 in depreciation costs and adding in 30,000 for the bond payment, the actual deficit projected is 63,066. Again, ARPA funds can be applied to the budget if needed. So that's saying that we're going to use $63,000 of the ARPA funds for that. So
If it's needed.
Essentially.
That's gonna be up to us, yeah.
Meredith spoke with the VEPSA staff about timeline for doing the electrical rate increase. They indicated that for a basic across the board rate increase, we should expect it will take about 5 months to get to PUC approval. She was told that several other VEPSA members are starting the process of evaluating a rate increase. So it is possible the village might have to wait a bit longer for the VEPSA staff to free up to work on Johnson's case. In terms of more complex cost of services rate case, which is when you look at how the costs are allocated amongst different customer classes, and also consider introducing new rate methodologies. PEPSA recommends that the village waits until it has an AMI. An AMI smart meter will provide much more data than is currently available, and we would be useful in a more complex analysis. Ken Nolan and the PEPSA GM offered to come speak about the rate increase, which they did. No, they didn't. At a future trustee meeting, okay.
Okay, Rosemary, do we have to approve the budget as read or?
Just say the dollar amounts for each budgets.
You add them
For
up, I
water.
agree. I think we tack what? 15,000 onto it.
Water budget's $284,133.
Where was that number, Mary?
Water, very last number.
284,
Yep.
133.
Yep.
By motion, we approve the budget
Water, that's just for the water.
for the water for $284,133 ugly dollars.
I'll second it.
Any questions? All in favor?
Aye.
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 Yep. Unanimous, passes. Thank you for doing that.
Did we do the wastewater one?
Wastewater,
Oh, we're going to each individual.
Yep.
And that is,
743,992.
so I motion we,
Oh,
745.
745, 992. So I motion we go with the wastewater department budget for 2022 of $745,992 ugly dollars.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Aye, that passes.
Electric.
Is there any more?
Electric will be
Electric.
2 million. 586.
Yep.
We didn't add nothing to that one.
No.
Nope.
Okay. Electrical department, 2022 budget. A motion will approve $2,586,766 ugly dollars.
I will second.
Wait, you got number two?
586.
766.
Am I very ugly dollars right there. Any comments?
Did I get a second?
Second.
You did. Any comments? None. How do you guys vote?
Aye.
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 Aye. Unanimous, it passes.
Is that it? The general fund?
The general fund,
615.
436.
Where am I looking?
I think it's 436,956.
Yep. Okay. And we didn't add nothing to that one, right?
No,
And Rosemary, that's with the Article 6.
no, that's just the budget itself.
Oh, the budget. Okay, I'm sorry.
Okay, I motion for the general fund. We approve $436,956 ugly dollars.
Second.
I will second it.
Okay, any questions?
Taxes would be $1,255 to raise taxes.
To raise taxes.
Taxes. $112,055.
And that's the increase.
So no, of the amount to be raised by taxes is.
Okay, and so motion to do general budget of 436,956 to raise the taxes of, where was my number?
112,
$112,055, ugly dollars.
Second the motion.
Okay, any
Awesome.
questions? All in favor?
All right.
aye.
Aye. Unanimous, motion passes.
I had one quick question, Rosemary. Does this budget include the possibility of grant writing? Okay, so if they pass that, then what do we do?
The extra $30,000. If that's passed, and then it's added to the tax rate. Not to be put like that.
And we're still gonna be able to do that.
Okay, now we're to the add-ons. First we have here resignation by Troy. Is there anything you wanted to say, Troy, if you're there? Okay. So we're just bringing that up. Next, we've already discussed the meeting next week. We're gonna have on the 23rd or the 25th, depending on what the person can do for an interview. If he can't do it, let's do it on the 26th so Diane can come to it. If he can't make either room.
And we're gonna be able to do that interview and then our meeting, or we're gonna do the
Yeah,
interview
we're gonna
after?
do the
What
interview.
time do you want to start? Earlier than 6?
Yeah, we can start at 5 if that works.
If I know at least a good day or two in advance, so that could definitely make it.
So we'll just go by what he says. If it's easier for him, we can, it doesn't matter, but we need to talk about village foreman position. That's a representative, and then the interview, all at that meeting, all at once.
You want to do the interview first?
Yeah, I think we
Get it
should
out
do
of the
that
way, yeah.
first and get it out of the way.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and like I said, we'll go by the gentleman who, what he wants to do, and if he can't make either, we'll do it for the 26th, so Diane can be here.
If you can do the meeting at 5, I can do it till 6:30. My meeting starts. at
Okay, so let's try to make either day at 5.
5.
That work well?
Yes, sir.
Perfect. Okay. What was brought up were to post the meeting permissions to get, Diane, you have the floor on that?
I wanted to start posting the warnings for the meetings on Front Porch Forum and here at the municipal building, and then on the board between the Sterling Market and the post office. That way it goes to more people if we post on Front Porch Forum.
And that's just basically saying the date, the time, location.
Yeah, and then it can give them the information for if they want to Zoom.
So you're just gonna copy the email Rosemary sent and post it?
Because
Sure.
haven't
That's
I,
really-
Zoom
The same
link,
way Brian
phone
does
calls.
it.
I was gonna say, I've seen select boards on there before, right?
Right, which
Yeah.
is pretty much what
Okay,
we
yeah.
The village
That sounds-
has never done that.
No.
correct. I was just saying, but generally the
So
way
I'm
that
asking
you
that that
post what you
happen.
put up on the top section here when you send us an email,
Yeah.
if we were to do that.
Yeah, because I see a select board on there all the time.
And you said that they've never done that.
No, the village has never done that.
Right,
But the town does.
Yes.
right. So I think if we post on Front Porch Forum, that goes out to more people, and then you have people more engaged, is what I'm saying. And
Biggest way to get them engaged is to get them on the distribution list. 'Cause then they'll get it in an email, stuff like that. You'll know about all of
I
them.
know, but it's a public
No, I was just
thing.
saying that was another way to get them
Sure.
engaged, is to remind them they can call the village office here and ask to be on a distribution list, and they'll get the same warning we get.
That could be part of the front porch forum. That one.
Information.
Yeah.
So Rosemary, where is it currently posted?
Here at the office and at the board on the Sterling Market building
So
and the
Diane's
website.
And
in the
it,
website.
It
So the
should
only-
be posted in 3 different places is the requirement.
She said.
It is. She says Sterling Market, the village office, and the website. That's 3 locations.
Oh, I didn't know it was on the website. I think from Porch Forum would be a better place, wouldn't it? Since it goes out to people instead of on the
So
website.
let me ask you, I noticed with the select board, they have it down in the very bottom and that thing, does that cost something to have it there, or can we?
No, Brian just posted.
Piggyback right on
It's
top.
in posts and at the bottom is always this, like a list of events.
Okay, and that's where I always see it.
Yeah,
Yeah, it shows up twice lots.
Yeah, I think it's a good idea myself. I mean,
Rosemary, is that going to be an issue for Rosemary to add that to the list of things to post? Rosemary, is that something you're willing to take on? Is that easy enough for you to do?
Yeah, that's fine. I'll just make a new front porch forum. Not through my personal account, but through a village account.
Okay. All right. I don't, does anybody have an issue with posting it on Front Porch Forum?
Do we need a motion or?
I don't think so.
and then I wanted to let you know that I've invited, if you guys okay it, solid waste to come and speak at the informational meeting. We talked about it earlier and they are willing to do it and are pretty excited about doing it. It'll save our landfill. And if Dan wants to come and speak, save the sewer plant.
Yeah, I may have a conflict that night. I'm not sure.
Yeah, hopefully you can do it.
If you want, just type up something.
Yeah.
Yeah, the more information we get out there.
I think so.
Doesn't read it there for you.
Yeah,
Be short and sweet, but yeah, it's.
Try to keep it to an hour and a half.
I was thinking 3
I
lines.
think it's gonna be short.
Nobody gets too excited about my line of work.
So Will, on that, to have that person come in and speak for a little bit, would that have to be on our next agenda, or can they just come and
No,
speak
she's talking about for the
For the
wastewater?
informational meeting.
informational, the village, the informational meeting, because we're not having an in-person meeting.
Right.
So
On
we
the
gotta do.
30th.
So we don't have to put them anywhere, just come and speak?
No. Personally, Diane, I don't have any issue with them coming and speaking. I would put it at the end of the agenda because the people who are tuning in are there for municipal business. And then if they want to stay at the end for an informational meeting or information from them, I'd be happy to put it on the agenda.
The other business.
So you want them at the end? Is that what you're
Correct.
saying? Okay.
Correct, yeah, because the primary purpose of this meeting is to inform people of the budget and any questions that they have. Not speak about an important topic like water sewer. So if they wanted to, if we can warn it so it's there, let them know that it's going to be at the end. That way there, if they don't only want to hear about the water and sewer, they can tune in later. And if they want to come for the business of the municipality, then they can come when it starts and deal with that issue.
Put it as an information.
So it's
Sure.
at the end.
Okay.
And we'll put that in the warning?
Yep.
We'll put it in the
Yep.
warning. Great.
Yep.
We need a motion for
And-
that.
Any other questions on either of those before we move to the next one?
And Dan's going to speak as well.
If
Is that-
I don't have a conflict of interest on that, I may have one, I'll let her know, but.
Okay, but as far as that, Dan, I don't see a need for you to come to the building. I mean, I don't see why you can't zoom in because most people are gonna be zooming in anyway. So I'd hate to interrupt your evening for something like this.
I told him if he couldn't make it, well, just to write up something quick and I'd read it at the meeting.
Perfect.
Yeah,
Perfect.
we'll figure it out, so.
Trying to be sensitive to your time, Dan.
But don't just not come just because you want me to read it.
Actually, that's a perfect reason. He reads well.
Okay, the last thing added to it, discussion on minutes. Okay.
I had a couple questions on the minutes that we received very, very late. Why was the 3 sets of minutes so far behind?
Well, I posted them on the website before I sent them out to you guys, but I think at least one of them I didn't send out at the same time.
Okay, because I haven't received any of these in my email.
Yeah, but like I said.
Till today.
I think that I didn't email them all out at the time, I posted them on the website, but do you know where to find them on the website?
No, I'd expect them in my email so I could go over them because I have to go over stuff again.
Yeah, I apologize that I didn't send them out. Normally I send
So,
them out.
so my next question is what, is it common practice to put unapproved minutes on the website before they've been approved and adjusted by us?
Yeah, that's what we've always done, because they have to.
They have to be up.
within 5 days of the meeting.
Okay, so then we should have them within 5 days of the meeting. Then,
Yeah.
correct? It'd be great because I got these, I was in Burlington, so there's no way I'm reading 16 pages on the way drive back from Burlington.
Yeah, I apologize.
So-
I guess I kind of assume people are not really that eager to read them, and if you were.
Well, I like to make sure that everything that I said is represented accurately, just to be honest with you.
Okay, yeah, I apologize in the future. I will.
So if we could definitely get them, a day or two in advance, I'd be excited about that.
Yeah, I mean, normally we should get them within 5 days of the meeting. And if they don't show up, you can always check on the website and see if I posted there.
Well, like I said, I'd really like to see it in the trustees' email box at least a day or two before the meeting, because
Okay.
I said, we gave you a raise, and it seems like suddenly since that time that it's just been not represented accurately. As in getting anybody the minutes for that. The only reason I brought it up is because I seen that you had the select board's minutes up immediately after their meetings for the last 3 meetings. So I just, like I said, I was really concerned why we weren't getting the minutes for our
Yeah,
meetings.
I think there was one time when I was out of town at the time I posted them, and I had a hard time getting it done, and I just.
Because I know sometimes we're doing them on Zoom and it's really hard to hear on Zoom. So
Yeah, that can be hard.
that was my, I don't know if anybody else thought, it was simply that I couldn't possibly read them, so I can't approve them. Can't refresh our memory from 30 days ago in 2 hours, so. That was it.
Any other business? Okay, motion to adjourn,
So make a motion, we adjourn.
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Bye.
Aye, have a good night.
Good job.
So.
Yeah, I'll have Susie work on it.
Okay. All right, I'll give this to you this one.
Night.
Have a good night.
So Rosemary, you like this version? You see anything in there that excited you beyond normal? That's really good.
Hey, that's a plus. Hey, so Rosemary, did you get that email I sent to you from Michael?